Morning, Brian, Liz. Oh, we did it. It's working correctly. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. We had a beautiful family time yesterday. All three of our, well, all of our families were here. My three kids, their spouses, and all of our grandchildren, and we spent hours and hours together yesterday. Beautiful day.
Sounds nice.
It's interesting, and it's in the vein of what we're talking about. When you're with people projecting active like that, not once does it occur to me to just stop and take a deep breath. I'm just kind of enjoying, and I want to really work on like being more aware, even when I'm projecting and doing other things. I think that's really the big goal. I mean, I'm decent at it, but I'd like to be better at it. That's something I'd like to get better at. It's being aware in the situations. Can anyone else relate to that? I think that's really the whole crux of this self-development game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy to get wrapped up in the moment and things, get frustrated, get upset. And it's not until I step out of it, however many minutes later or an hour later or whatever, that I realize how silly I've been.
Yeah, unconscious projecting. And as long as it's aligned, this is my theory, because I'm not one of those that goes up on a mountain and, just wants to walk away from things. My bucket list is gigantic. I want to do a million things. But the point is that they're aligned. Like they're aligned. So no matter how much effort I put in, no matter how lost I get in the effort, no matter how unconscious I am, I've set it up so that what I'm doing is aligned and it's making me feel really good about the actions that I'm taking and the things I'm working on, like being with my family. Okay, yeah. So I wasn't meditating while I was with my family. I was with my family. I was really aligned. Everything was peaceful and loving. So it was a really good feeling. Having said that, I would love like little markers through the day that remind me say, hey, stop and take a breath. Like, that's what these are. These are like these events are like markers or reminders during the week to, hey, stop. It's, meditation time, or stop. We're going to get together as a group. But how do we do that in our own daily lives, like in the projected moment? Because it's one thing to understand that hey, we're all on the universe together. We're all part of the same energy grid. It's an understanding, and it's nice to carry that understanding. That's important. But how do you understand it like right then and there in the moment? And that's, I guess, our next level of evolution. Anyone have any thoughts on that? You guys doing well with that, or have the same exact experience?
Are you talking more like pause and linger in the moment? Is that what you're talking? Or
Yes, but in a moment where it's like you're into something.
gotcha, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um,
I will say I did sit back and I said, wow, like this is, I guess I did, but I didn't think about it consciously, pause and linger, but I did sit back and just observed. There were 13 of us, and we're all crowded into my wife has her like TV room, call it the blue room, and there's 13 of us in the blue room sitting on the floor, sitting on all these little footstools and things, everyone and the little grandkids on the floor. And I said, wow, this is really, really, I did take a moment to step back and reflect, but I didn't have my deep breathing mind. I didn't have my disengage and linger mind. I was just kind of enjoying the moment. And when I wasn't enjoying the moment, I was just in the moment.
I guess Thanksgiving for me is when I catch myself really doing that, but I could kind of transition that into more other than just Thanksgiving with the family, you know? I think that's when I'm really in appreciation mode and looking around, just so feeling blessed and fortunate and grateful and thankful. And but it doesn't have to be Thanksgiving. It could be every time. So that's a great observation. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. The what I want to talk about today, I want to start using this time to talk about welcome, Josh. If I didn't welcome you, glad you're all here. What I want to talk about, use this hour for, and use this on a regular basis, and this will also be open to the public. Yes, this would also be open to the public every Sunday morning, and so I need to adjust it in the Circle events calendar. I need to, and by the way, while you guys are here, I do want you to notice that I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully, go to the circle screen. I wanted you to notice that there are now two events calendars. There are private events in the members only events. And right now there are three of them. It's our weekly meeting on Sunday night and then our Ascension workshop. And I guess I've already moved this one out. So in the regular events calendar that's open to everybody, there's the, oh, okay, so I messed up. All right. All right, I got a little work to do still on Circle. This is going to be this Sunday morning is going to be our inner alignment or subconscious alignment or subconscious reprogramming or habits. I'm not really sure of the name of it, but that's going to happen. But there are now two events calendars. There's one that's open to the public, and there's others that are open only to members of the collective. And as you recall, we agreed that we're going to do things by invitation only. So still in flux here, but I want to use this time, at least today and moving forward on Sunday morning, since I'm in the routine now of having this, planning for this time every Sunday. So let's keep this time slot open and going. I want to use this to focus more on developing new habits, new routines, subconscious programming, kind of breaking away from habits, routines, identities, stories of the past, and kind of clearing ourselves to create and design new habits, new routines, new values that we can talk about, things that we don't take time to talk about during the day, but really do need to be talked about. And so we're talking about, making shifts in life. We're talking about the more active part of enlightenment. And this is really, for me, this is the beauty of the fourth dimensional plane where we can look down on ourselves and without being wrapped up in it. Really what we were just talking about, right? When with the family, with at work, doing the thing, on the phone calls, we're in the third dimension. We're acting. Now, the fourth dimension and what we're talking about today is really important. No problem, Liz. So, what's really important, what we're going to be talking about today, is planting new habits, new ideas, new routines, new thought structures into the third dimensional person so that you can just kind of let yourself go. That's what I've come to understand. Like, I've started now because of you guys, because there's other people here with me now. I'm able to anchor more and more of my awareness onto the work that we're doing here. The ideas, the sixth dimensional magnetic energy, the seventh dimensional source, kind of swirling new patterns up here. So I've been able to maintain more and more of my awareness and more of my meditations up here into a magnetic presence. And in order to do that, that life down there needs to be balanced and on a positive autopilot. Because if I'm trying to do this work up here and this person down here is angry or greedy or selfish or whatever the thing is, whatever you got going on, you're traumatic or upset, whatever it is, you can't really stay up here. So the work that we're doing here is only as good as the quality of the life that you're living down there. If you're unhealthy or you're not safe or you're in a difficult relationship or you're constantly out of balance, You can experience this, but you can't anchor. And so what I want to do is I want to show and prove that you can take average people and take average people like us and anchor us up here. And there's two steps. Number one is we have to introduce ourselves and spend more time at this higher dimension. But the second step is what I really want to talk about in this time slot on Sunday morning. How do we make this guy down here more positive, more automated, more always making healthy decisions so that when we are lost in the third dimension, which is most of our time, when we're lost in this, we're in alignment, we're on target, we're making healthy decisions. We're doing these things now without having to think about them. And we're not going off, watching TikTok for 4 hours. We're in alignment. We've got better habits. We're walking, we're deep breathing, we're doing all these exercises where a lot of it has to do with health, but a lot of it also has to do with we're reading, where, we've just got different habits now. Instead of at night going to sleep, watching, murder shows and, putting upsetting thoughts or the news into our head at 11 o'clock and then going to sleep, no, we've turned the TV off an hour ago and we have an hour kind of wind down routine where we got an evening routine where we relax, we read books, we meditate, we stretch a little bit, we do some deep breathing, and then we go to sleep. So how do we map out a day where we're on autopilot doing the things that we want to do so that when we do extend our consciousness to these higher dimensions, we can kind of stay there and merge ourselves into higher and higher awareness while this body is learning how to take care of itself. And what I'm experiencing, and I'll share my own experience, as I've been anchoring here, it's not that this life, sometimes I think like this life isn't important anymore. It's not that. I'm starting to understand as I spend more time here, it's not that this third dimensional life becomes less important. It's that it becomes much more like aligned and automatic. And what I'm experiencing is as I'm growing here, this life down here is now an outgrowth of the work that I'm doing here. I don't know if that made sense. As I spend more time in higher awareness, this life is more open and more, it's kind of like a channel now for this work because a lot of things for me have opened up. A lot of things for me in the last month have expanded and opened up. And I find that the more work I do here, the more I release any desire to be a specific way down here, and I can release that will, I see that this power is starting to flow through me and manifesting a different life. Certainly a different version of me, a healthier version of me, a more calm, relaxed version of me. Less drama, hardly any agitation, more balanced, more habit aligned, positive habits, healthier. All that's going good, but also a lot of these energies are now kind of like flowing through my life. So I find that the more I can release my will and my expectations down here, the more time I can spend here, the more this life is becoming like a manifestation through me of what I'm working on here. That makes sense. So it's really like a two-stage battle, if you will, or a game. Look at it more of a game or a competition than a battle. Um, the first part of the game is you've got to open your mind to higher understanding, open your experience to higher energies, get out of the head center thing, get more heart centered, allow these energies to flow through you, allow yourself to experience these higher dimensional teachings, these higher dimensional meditations and experiences, and kind of just bliss out in that. So that's the first part of the game is you have to open yourself up to even being aware of that and open yourself up to experiencing it and opening yourself up to kind of holding that. So that's the first part of that's one part of the journey. They're equal. You can't do one without the other. But the second part is to get this guy out of reactive mode and more into an aligned state of rhythm and balance and routine every day so that you're staying aligned here. And these things now become habits, and you're not fighting with yourself, self-sabotaging by getting angry or overeating or, whatever it is that we self-sabotage ourselves with. So we got building purer, more positive habits here on the one hand, and opening ourselves up to higher wisdom on the other hand. And because we're doing this work together, as we stand there when we do our sixth and seventh dimensional meditations, this power, this energy is actually flowing through us. It's flowing through us collectively, but it's also flowing through me and it's flowing through you. And the work down here makes you a clearer channel for this power. And if you can start to just let go of your need for it to be a certain way, this power will start to express itself. And it's an aligned power, and it's very expansive. It's very powerful. I said a couple of months ago when we started playing around with this higher power, the more we understand it, the more we learn to play around with it, the more we see how it actually works. And what I'm seeing is it works. It works. It does its own thing, but it also works through, at least I feel it working through my own life and it's expanding all the possibilities in my own life. And I'm just kind of letting it allow it to expand. And I want you to do the same thing. Like let go of all the things that you're anchored to and just allow this new energy to flow through you. I want to share any thoughts on that or comments or experiences, or like I'm just way out there and it doesn't make any sense. Questions, comments? And what I also say is the more you talking to the converted here, the more we plug ourselves in here, the more this power is resonating with us and resonating through us. It's not only resonating and manifesting in ways, it's actually working through our bodies and through our lives, because these lives are just an illusion. They are a mirror of what's going on inside of us. So when we draw ourselves up to higher consciousness and we have more interesting things, more powerful things inside of us now, this life then begins to manifest that. I want to talk about everyone knows I'm a college football fan. So I want to talk about um, my new favorite coach in college football. His name is Kurt Signetti, and I've been following him. I didn't follow him as much last year, but I've been following him very closely this year. In other words, listening to all of his interviews, watching all of his games, listening to his post-game interviews and whatnot. He's a fascinating guy. He worked for 4 years. When Nick Saban, those of you who know college football, Nick Saban moved from LSU to Alabama in 2007. And then Nick Saban, and Alabama wasn't that good. They only won 7 games that first year when Nick Saban was there, but he turned them around. But Alabama then went on to win like 4 or 5 more national championships. Well, when Nick Saban came to Alabama, he chose Kurt Signetti as his offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. So Kirk Signetti worked directly with Nick Saban 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010 for 4 years. And so he got the full Nick Saban experience. Nick Saban is another great story of college football coaching, but he is relentlessly organized and disciplined and very, very focused on the process and very focused on everyone on the team has to be of one mind. And so Kurt Signetti learned all of this, and he had also had experiences with other coaches that he took. But he was 50 years old, and he was an assistant at Alabama, had a big office, big job, probably making $300,000 a year. Kind of a great life, kind of a dream job for most people, but he wanted to be a head coach. So at age 50, he went all the way back to a Division II school, um, a tiny little school called Indiana University of Pennsylvania or something, IUP. It's in Pennsylvania. Has the word Indiana in it, but it's in Pennsylvania. and he coached there and he turned them into a championship team. Then he got a job for another small school, coached them into, conference championship. Then he got a job at another small school, coached them into a championship. And then he got a job coaching in the Big Ten at Indiana University. And Indiana University, of all the college football teams in history, had the most losses of any team. They were in the bottom half of the Big Ten probably, 85 out of the last 100 years. They were just awful. They had only been to 12 bowl games in something like 70 years. Which means a bowl game, all you got to do to get invited to a bowl game is have a winning record. They had a losing record like, 80, 90% of the time in the past years. They were terrible. They'd only won 3 bowl games. A coach that won a bowl game was like a hero at Indiana. Like they were so bad, the worst of the worst. And Kurt Signetti got there and he completely transformed the culture of Indiana University into like an unrelenting belief that they were going to win. He came in and he said all the administrators, the athletic director, the staff, they were so used to losing and he just had to like clear out everybody's mind and say, no, we are going to win. Like that he just transformed the organization's mind and he transformed them into positive thinking. And in his big thing was not just an unwavering belief in winning, but a tremendous pride in the school, in the program, in the football team, in the organization, a tremendous pride and expectation of excellence. And this was something that he created that didn't exist. And I just want to share a couple of things as to why he is so successful. And this is why, again, why I love college football and I love watching these college football coaches. He says, number one, you've got to have an unwavering belief that you're going to win. You have to have a pride in the program, like a real pride. So this would translate to the collective. Like we've got to have an unwavering belief that this collective is going to achieve its mission and be great in its mission. Is going to grow and expand and be a real force to be reckoned with in the future. I certainly believe that. You've got to have a rock solid belief that this thing's going to grow. And the second thing, you've got to have a pride in the organization, a pride that you're part of something that is worth being part of, is worth putting your energy into, is worth flowing into. And that pride is really important. And then he talks about, and then he talks about holding yourself to a higher standard. And I don't talk about this enough, but we as individuals, we talk about our group, our collective values of, of honesty and kindness and cooperation and lifting other people up and healing and, being organized and on point and being responsible and self-reliant. So we've got all these values, but we have an obligation to live to those values every day. They're not, group values or Alan's values. These you've got to internalize these as your values. And you and I, all of us as individuals, as a group, we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard as a collective. But each of us individually needs to hold ourselves up to a higher standard, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of what's happening around us, regardless of what other people are doing. Be honest in a world where it's people aren't honest. If you're in business, give people great value in a world where companies don't give great value, where it's easy to cut corners. Be a great parent in a world where it's really easy to pull back and just kind of let the kids raise themselves, or throw them over the fence to the school and let the school raise them. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and we don't talk about that hardly at all. And I think holding ourselves to higher values, holding ourselves to a higher standard is really, really important. Another thing he talks about is that you have freedom of choice, but not freedom of consequence. You're free to make choices, but every choice, every decision that you make has consequences. So when you make positive choices, positive decisions, positive, take the positive fork in the road, take the positive fork in the road, that creates a whole flood of positive circumstances. and positive consequences that come because of that decision that you made. That's really important. Like you're free, you're also free to make the negative choice. You're free to not do it. You're free to not be generous. You're free to do whatever you want. But that also rolls consequences and takes you in a certain direction. So you have freedom of choice, but you're not free of the consequences. And that's why it's really important. We talk about planting seeds. You want to plant lots of seeds every day. Just because you had a great day yesterday, you got to still make it a great day today. So you have freedom of choice, but not freedom of consequences. And he talks about, in terms of football, that means you've got to be dependable. You have to show up the same way every day. You have to make good decisions in life, not just good decisions in football. And this is the most important thing he says. And there's several others I'm going to share with you. But he talks about first you form your habits, then your habits form you. First, you form your habits, then your habits form you. First, you form your habits, then your habits form you. So we can't really remember all the way back to the time we shaped our negative habits, our negative opinions, our negative self-beliefs, but we did form them. And for the rest of our lives, those habits and opinions and self-beliefs have been forming our life. First, we've got to form our habits. We have to create, we have to consciously decide, what are we going to do today? How am I say be a deep breather, right? So some people say that's a really good idea, and then the idea just goes away, it disappears. Other people are grabbing that and saying, yes, I'm going to be a deep breather. 3 deep breaths in the morning, 3 deep breaths at night. And then I'm going to breathe deeply throughout the day. I'm going to make that a habit. Once you shape that habit, once you adopt that habit and merge that habit into your lifestyle, that habit now forms and informs the person that you are. So when you create healthy habits, it's not just a one-time thing. It's a healthy habit that pays dividends over and over and over again. So Kurt Signetti, the quote is, it's not a quote, but he sees football and life as being about building the right daily habits. And those habits are what drive your character. And your character is what determines the quality of your life. Habits shape the person. First, you form your habits, then your habits form you. And again, preaching to the converted here, you guys are here because you're here again and again and again. So these simple little habits of plugging into these live events, watching the replay video, saying hello to a new member on the thing, anything you do that's plugged in here, that's a habit. And the more you form this habit, the more this will form you. This work will start to inform you and become part of you. And you can't get away from that. You are your habits. Your habits and routines are like the structures of the day. When you wake up, there's really no structure. There's nobody telling you what to do. John, you're retired. I'm semi-retired. Nobody tells me what time to wake up. Nobody tells me what to do. I can do whatever I want. But it's the habits that form the anchors of the day, the morning habits, the evening habits, your eating habits, your food habits, the way you say hi to your husband or wife, all these habits form these habits, and then your life is the outgrowth. Literally every day becomes the outgrowth of those habits. The next thing he talks about is process and consistency. Championships come from daily process, consistency over a long period of time, the habit of preparation, practice habits, making time for practice, being prepared for practice, so that when it's all about process and consistency, doing the same thing over and over and over again, preparing for things. If you have a job, be completely prepared for your job, become an expert in your job, process and consistency over time. He also talks about learning from failure and then responding. That losing sucks. When they lose, they didn't lose this year. They were 16-0. That's the first time that's ever happened with a college team. 16, that's more games than any college team's ever played, and 16-0 that's a record, never happened before. But when you fail, there's Chinese wisdom here. Failure is the cause of the next phase of your life. It's not the result. So if something didn't go your way, or I'm in sales, right? If you lose a sale, that's not the result. That's the launching point of the next phase of your life. Oh, I lost that sale, so I've got to learn from failure. What did I do wrong? What did the customer do wrong? How can I do something better? Failure is not the end point. It's the beginning of the next chapter. It's the beginning. It's not the result. It's the cause. It's the cause. It makes you into who you are. So he really believes that failure can be learned from, and it's not a bad thing inherently. The other thing is he says no self-imposed limits. There should be no self-imposed limitations if you're preparing the right way, if you're doing the right things, if you're following your own instructions, if you're building these positive habits, there are no self-imposed limitations. You're building a new version of yourself so that you can expand and allow these higher energies to flow through you. And the key word for me over the last couple of days has been expansion, just allowing my life to expand, allowing this energy to come through, not thinking, okay, this is great energy. I'm going to use it for this, this, and this. No, I'm giving that up. And I'm simply allowing the energy to flow through, letting go of my own personal will, knowing that I planted the seeds in higher dimensions and keep planting those seeds, and I'm allowing that energy to flow through me without my limitation of how I'm going to use it. I'm just kind of allowing it to flow through. So the word for me has been expansion and just allowing things to expand. And that goes with what he's talking about. No self-imposed limits. And when the game is on the line, in the big moments, you play to win. In the big moments of the game now is the time to raise your level and play to win. As he says, let it all hang out. You're going to be a hero if you make the play. You're going to be a bum if you don't make the play. But in those big moments, you only get one shot. So if you walk in there and there are no self-imposed limits and everything is possible and you're allowing expansion, when you make an effort at something, win, do it. Make that part of the growth plan. It's okay if you lose because you can learn from that. But the goal is to win. Put in that full effort right in that moment and win. And then lastly, he talks about love the process, not just the outcome. Nick Saban talks about the biggest enemy of success. This is important. The biggest enemy of success is focusing on the outcome, winning or losing. Success doesn't come from the outcome. Success comes from planting the seeds, from the practices every day, from the new habits that you're developing, from all the work that you're inputting in the beginning. That's where success comes from. It's not your job. The final score isn't always up to you, but the process. And he says the biggest enemy of success is like a big, 70-0 blowout. He said that's the biggest because all of a sudden you think that now you're going to be successful and you forgot why you were successful. It's all the work, it's the practice, it's the attention to detail, it's the focusing, it's the teamwork, it's the process. That's what you need to focus on, and that's what Signetti says. Love the process, not just the outcome. The fun is in the doing. The teamwork, the fun comes from the teamwork. The fun comes from the journey, from making mistakes, from learning, from, holding each other accountable, from making each other better. It focuses on preparation, improvement, this is right from his speech. Preparation, improvement, shared experiences with teammates, shared experiences with your family, because the memories and the relationships outlast any win or loss. And so love the process. Don't say I'm doing this in order to get something else. No, just enjoy doing this and expanding and allowing all the results to come to you. So that's my Kurt Signetti download. I love studying these coaches because I love the optimism and the it kind of like the pep talk, right? Like being in the locker room. I've always wanted to know, what do those coaches say in the locker room that really amps you up? You got it, man. Fucking win. If we're going to do something, let's win. I don't think there's anything wrong with winning. So, winning is the greatest thing. Winning just means you're doing the work, right? So, we're redefining what winning means, right? Winning means you're doing the work, you're enjoying the experiences, you're learning from your mistakes, you're going through the bumps and grinds, you're making yourself a better person, you're intentional, you're doing the work, you're surrounded by other people who are supporting you, doing the same work, pushing you up. That's winning. Like that process in itself is winning. All the other things, I used to, I wrestled in high school and my son was a wrestler, so we go to wrestling tournaments all the time. And they used to have these t-shirts that they would sell. And my favorite t-shirt was, we win Monday through Friday. We pick up our trophies on Saturday. Like it's the practices where we win throughout the week. Saturday, we just pick up the trophy. That's the outcome of the work that we put in. And so when we put in work in the collective, and we're still a little bit of ways, from being hyper organized and, process oriented and all that, I'm still allowing the energy because they have to at this point, kind of allowing the energies to float and guide us. So I don't have anything precision yet as far as the collective. We don't have our own national championship that we're shooting for. We're just kind of floating in this higher dimensional process, allowing this energy to organize itself and flow. What I'm learning is it's also flowing through us. It's not just flowing through the three-dimensional world. It's not just flowing and anchoring in the three-dimensional world. It's also flowing through us. And so that's really what I'm experiencing. But I think winning is not only fun, it teaches you something. It teaches you about sportsmanship and competition and everything that he says, man. When the moment is on the line, don't miss that moment. Go for it. Do it. Try to win. If you win, you're the hero. If you lose, you're the bum. It doesn't matter. In that moment, you've got to give it your effort. So it's all of these habits that we're forming day by day, all of the work that we're doing, the healthy decisions that we're making, the listening, the deep breathing, the drawing in, all the work that you're doing. It's all good. And that is the victory in itself. The results happen however they're going to happen. So I just wanted to share my Kurt Signetti moment because he is really, he's not an inspiring person, but his theory is incredibly inspiring. I just he knows how to win. And I think, and he knows how to create great people. He knows how to get great effort out of everybody. He knows how to take everybody. He said everybody we recruit, like they're good enough to be on a championship team. You just got to bring it out of them. And the way you bring it out of them is by creating habits and routines and expectations and mindsets and just keep your mind on winning and being great. Feel good. Amps me up. Yeah, let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's win. And winning comes by the hard work that you do, preparation, having a plan, being organized, being habit driven, having positive routines. That's winning. When you can latch on, then it's hard to do that in isolation, right? So a lot of people can, do that in isolation, make healthy decisions, make good habits, they do all the right things. It's really becomes easier when it becomes the group norm and living these values. And so anyway, I want to go back to values. They're not just our values as a collective. Each of us must live these values. And I think everyone here is kind of reading the cycle of mind. If you're not, I'd suggest that you do that, um, so that you really do lock in your values. You really should know what you stand for. And some of the things that we talk about in the cycle of mind are, kindness and generosity, gratitude, making healthy decisions, being healthy. That's a really important job that you have, a responsibility, lifting other people up, having a purpose, having work and a purpose and a mission that's aligned. So when you get off full speed in that mission, you're aligned automatically and you don't have to worry about losing your meditative state, or you don't have to worry about losing your balance or your alignment because the work that you're doing is aligned. Where we become unaligned is when the work is not aligned. when we're plugged into jobs or systems or relationships that are sucking the energy out of us, as opposed to defining the work that we want to do, making that our purpose, and then using all of our power and energy to make that happen. That's an aligning experience because I don't believe we should just be sitting here meditating for 20 hours a day. I just don't believe that. I think I think we need to help people. I think we need to spend our time building systems and structures that actually help people, or forget about systems and structures, helping individual people. Each of us can help people and change people's lives. I think that's equally as important as finding personal balance and alignment. But I think we got to do both. We have to find personal balance, personal alignment, and then we have to find goals and activities that allow us to express the highest version of ourselves and not worry that, oh my gosh, I was so, unaware. It doesn't matter. You were pursuing something that was aligned and building you up. And when you go back to your inner work now, you can continue to keep yourself aligned, and then your work, your outer work. It's like well, the cycle of mind, right? You've got to do inner work. You have to really plan and organize your habits, your values, your principles. You got to be journaling, writing things down. Writing connects inner to outer. Just try it. You've got to do the inner work, the meditation, the bliss, the feeling, the releasing, the clearing space. You do have to do inner work, but that's only half of life. The other half of life is the projecting outward. And if you're projecting outward in a 3D unaligned system, then you're projecting towards an unaligned system, or you're trying to control it and get it back to where you want to. You're trying to move the mountain. And what you want to do is you want to create a mountain in front of you, and you want that to be your work. So life is a drawing in and an inner understanding, and then a projecting outward. So you've got to work over time to draw in, become more aligned, more balanced, and then work over time so that your work, your family, driving, the shopping, the cooking, the cleaning is all aligned. So when you get lost in it, unconsciously lost in it on autopilot, you're on a positive autopilot. I'm going to write a book about football coaches. I think that positivity, man. I mean, I would personally, I would love to be on a college football team with a great coach. Yeah. And to feel that team, that energy, that power, like in the locker room, on the practice field, on the bus on the way home from the game, that winning feeling of teamwork and camaraderie. We kind of have that with our families. But with families, we're not goal oriented. There's no winning or losing. It's just kind of being around each other is the game. But I would love that feeling of, breaking out of a locker room and running onto the field, 100,000 fans. I can't even imagine what that feels like. I can't imagine what it feels like. I haven't experienced it, but I could only imagine what it would be like. I would love that, man, to be all juiced up and really pushing forward the same direction as everybody else, putting in my full effort, knowing that every single person on the field is also putting in their effort. That's a great feeling, and that's what we're building here in the collective. And interestingly enough, we're not just building this in the collective so we can all meditate for 24 hours a day. We're building this in the collective so we can meditate and align and feel magnetically aligned and all, but working on very specific projects and very specific things that we can bring into manifestation. I wonder what our friends on YouTube are saying. Well, I got that off my chest. That's what I want to talk about in these Sunday meetings that we're having, these Sunday morning meetings. Um, I feels aligned for me. Hmm. What could we do now? Like any suggestions on the next? Let's do some breathing. This is a really important habit, and one that takes, if not years, certainly takes months to develop. So there's no quick fix here because all I'm going to talk about breathing patterns and we're going to talk about diaphragmatic breathing. All right, we'll do a guided meditation on breathing. Here we go. If you're in a spot where you can close your eyes, do that. And notice if your eyes are closed, sometimes you're still projecting outward. Your focus, your attention is outward. It might be pictures that you see. It might be songs you're singing in your head. There's something going on where you're still projected outward. It's a very subtle shift, but I want you to reverse your awareness to inside your being. Just practice this reversal. Look out again, even with your eyes closed. Project outward, project your focus outward, and then again, subtly reverse the awareness to within your being. And you can just practice that going back and forth. So now I'm within my being. And once you capture your attention inside, like a rock in the ocean, I want your attention and your focus to go deeper and deeper and deeper within your being. Just release all tension or stress. And now your inner sight, take your inner sight to your diaphragm. And just observe how your diaphragm, when you breathe in, the diaphragm pushes down and out. Make it like a frisbee. Expand it. Expand your diaphragm into your back, into your sternum, into your lower ribs, and just have it expand like a frisbee. And then when your diaphragm relaxes, it goes back up beneath your ribs and the air gets pushed out of your lungs. So just observe your diaphragm. And now I want you to take very gentle control of your diaphragm, and I want you to slow your breathing rate to 3 or 4 breaths per minute. So the diaphragm's moving really slowly, steady, steady, expanding, expanding, very, very slow expansion. When you get to the top of the inhale, hold it, and then release it very slowly. This is a diaphragmatic breath. I want you to realize that as your diaphragm expands and you inhale, your diaphragm is also creating a wave. It's pushing down on your stomach and your intestines, all of your organs, really. It's pushing down and massaging all of your organs. The diaphragmatic expansion downward um, actually massages. It has a digestive function. It enhances your digestion. It massages your intestines, your stomach. If you want to take your pelvic floor, this is like the lower mudra lock. You want to take your pelvic floor and tighten those muscles. Notice that that's separate from the diaphragm. Hold the pelvic floor tight and just allow the diaphragm to push down and squish your digestive organs. And then as you relax, the diaphragm relaxes and rises again. Hold the pelvic floor. You want to breathe this basic diaphragmatic breath throughout the day. So while you're driving, watching television, walking, whatever you might doing, whenever you can become aware of it, grab that diaphragm and do a very slow, measured diaphragmatic expansion, wider and wider like a frisbee, and then let the diaphragm relax and push the air out. Well, that's one type of breath. That's a diaphragmatic breath. The second breath is a full breath. So you'll notice when your diaphragm is expanding, the diaphragm muscle is actually connected to the lowest tip of the lowest ribs. So as your diaphragm expands, the lowest part of your ribs also expand. Now we're going to do something. We're going to do a more deep inhale. So as your diaphragm expands, the lower part of your rib expands. Breathe in through your nose. You feel the lower part of your rib expand. The second part of this breath, breathing in through your mouth, but intentionally pulling the ribs apart, allowing the ribs to expand. This allows much more air to fill the lungs, all the parts of the lungs that normally don't get filled up. So the diaphragmatic breath is great, fills up the lower part, the lower one third of your lungs. This full expansion breath in through the nose, diaphragmatic expansion. And when you're finished with that, then the second part of the breath is a deeper inhale through the mouth. Pull the ribs apart, pull the back muscles, relax the back muscles, move your elbows away from your body, and just fill up your lungs. I'm going to do three gigantic deep breaths. And at the top of that deep breath, hold it for 2 or 3 heartbeats. And on the exhale, push your ribs in and push your diaphragm in and collapse the lungs as much as you can. Get every last ounce of CO2 out. And then again, start with the diaphragm. Go as far as you can with the diaphragmatic breath, and then open the mouth. Hold it at the top for a few seconds, and then collapse the ribs in the diaphragm. Get every last part of CO2 out. That's the second type of breath. That's a hyperoxygenating breath. That's where we're taking in far more oxygen, far more chi and prana. That's how you raise the cellular function, your cellular efficiency is through this deeper breathing. And then the third breath is using the breath sort of as a handle or a dial to move energy in your body. So in this case, we're going to move energy up and down the central channel. So the energy isn't the breath, but the breath is kind of like the handle that's moving the energy. It's kind of like the pump when the diaphragm expands and air comes into the lungs. That ball of light, you want to imagine a ball of light in your root chakra, right by your tailbone. And on the gentle and here we're only going to do the diaphragmatic inhale. As the diaphragm expands and air comes in, that light is pushed up through the central channel, through the crown, and if you want, you can take that light all the way to the light chakra, about 15 inches over your head. And then on the exhale, the light or the energy goes back down through the central channel. In this case, we're clearing out the central channel by using our breath. So just imagine, do 3 or 4 diaphragmatic breaths where that central channel light is flowing up and down the central channel, clearing out all the chakras. There are literally dozens of breathing techniques, but we just talked about 3. One is using your inner sight to place your inner sight on your diaphragm and just observe your diaphragm and then slowly take control of it, but in a very gentle way. Just observe your diaphragm expanding and then observe your diaphragm contracting and slowing the breath rate. When you slow the breath rate like that, it should be easy at any point in that breath to stop and just literally stop breathing for 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Usually you'll stop on the exhale and hold it on the exhale for 3 or 4 seconds. And then again, a nice diaphragmatic breath, and you can hold it at the top. So I want you to know when you're using your inner sight and you're working specifically with your diaphragm, it should be no problem at all to pause your breath if that's what you want to do, or simply let the diaphragm expand and contract. That's one breath. The second is the full breath, the hyperoxygenating breath, where you pull your ribs apart, you breathe in through the mouth, you fully expand the lungs. That's a second related but a different type of breath. And then the third, also related to diaphragmatic breathing, is using your gentle diaphragmatic breathing as a pump to rise energy up and down your central channel. You can use it as a pump to spread energy throughout your body. You can use it as a pump to do anything you want with the energy. So it's using the breath as a handle to actually control the light and the energy flow through your body. So those are three different types of breaths that you can work with. And there's many others. There's, holding your nostril and breathing through one nostril and the other, and hundreds, I mean, not hundreds, but a dozen, at least a dozen valid energetic breathing techniques. And I like to start all of these breathing techniques by using my inner sight so I can kind of see what's going on inside of me, or experience. Seeing may not be the right word, but experiencing and controlling what's going on inside of me. And so we always talk about reversing your awareness and activating your inner sight. This is that inner sight is an ability that you're going to hold on to forever. That's just now a part of what you have. And that inner sight helps in the higher dimensional work. It helps as you feel and experience these higher dimensional magnetic energies, feel these magnetic energies inside of you. That inner sight is an important attribute, a new skill or a new ability that you have. Another thing you can do is just, if you're still in this meditative diaphragmatic breathing mode, another thing you can do, we talked about a two-part breath, the diaphragm first, and then the open your mouth and expand the lungs. Let's see how far we can go with just the diaphragmatic breath. How deep we can get without opening our mouth, without pulling our ribs apart, how deep that diaphragmatic breath can become, all on its own. Using your inner sight to connect with, to feel, to control, to observe, play around with this diaphragmatic muscle, this very important muscle in your body. Want to push all of your breathing down to your diaphragm and try to get as little as possible. Try to start to notice. We all grow up, and this is really important when for parents too, to teach their kids regulated breathing. We grow up with dysfunctional, everything's dysfunctional when we grow up. We have dysfunctional breathing patterns, we have dysfunctional eating habits when we're kids, dysfunctional emotional patterns, dysfunctional relationship patterns. All of these things need to be relax. And I think the most important thing as an adult is to become a diaphragmatic breather. It's really the most important thing for your health. Health is at the center of your life. And if you would open the box of health, the most important thing in your health is your breathing, deep breathing in particular, oxygenating your cells. It's the most important thing in life. If health is at the center of life, breathing is at the center of health, and the diaphragmatic pump is at the center of breathing. So learning to be a more relaxed breather, learning to be a nose breather, learning to breathe deeply from the bottom of your body, learning to use the diaphragm to push and massage your intestines and all your internal organs. That's the essence of health and longevity. And then we learned about the second, the deep breath, expanding the ribs, expanding your lung capacity to hyperoxygenate yourself. And then we learned about the Taoist technique of actually using the breath as a handle, like as a way to get to the light that's flowing, as a way to actually find the energy that's flowing, and using the breath as a handle, almost like a pump or a dial to dial the energy flow in your body. So make that a goal for today and for this week. Make it a goal to become more of a diaphragmatic breather and more aware more often. I have this thing like every time I touch the steering wheel of my car, I'll be waiting at a red. Oh yeah, okay, relax. And I can take diaphragmatic breaths. I just shift my awareness in and I start to take, it means I still can drive. My eyes are open. I'm still driving, but I'm taking a diaphragmatic breath and then I'm also like starting to observe more things, not just the road in front of me, but I'm observing what's going on. I'm observing the energy around me. Oh, I never saw that before. Who knew? Who knew there was a gas station at this corner? Been to this corner a million times. Never noticed that building. Never noticed that. All of a sudden, just kind of become more present while I'm driving. So these are like little things that you can do to improve your awareness. And these are all things that we have to do to build healthier habits to kind of get that body on autopilot so it stays healthy. It doesn't take us down avenues that get us in trouble. It stays positive, it stays focused, it stays light, it stays healthy. And so you want to get your life on a healthy autopilot, healthy not just breath wise, but health wise, relationship wise, behavior wise, values wise. You want to get this life rolling on autopilot so when you do the higher dimensional work, you're not constantly pulled off track by your subconscious habits. You've taken the time to build positive subconscious habits that can now start to absorb and anchor more of this higher energy. And slowly you'll see what happens. You'll start to melt into these higher dimensional energies. And what I've started to experience is not only that, but these energies are now, these very powerful magnetic energies are now manifesting or flowing through me. And my life down there has become sort of like an expression or an outcome of the higher work that we're doing up here. So do the higher work and start to notice that that power is working through you and is changing things in your life. And the key word is expansion. Expansion. Your life is expanding through the energies that are now working through you. All different types of things are now aware. You become more aware of things. Opportunities arise. All different kinds of things. Your life is beginning to expand, and it won't expand if you have density and you're tense and you're holding on to very specific things that have to be a certain way, or your life is emotionally out of balance, or you're unhealthy. So you've got to do all clear out all of those things over time, do the higher dimensional work over time. So eventually you become this breathing system. You do the work up here and it flows through you into whatever, however it's going to flow through you. But you don't want to be tense and holding on to it. So you need to learn to release, surrender, and allow this energy to kind of flow through your life, and just keep the word open: expansion. Just observe how your life can expand and will expand if you allow this energy to flow through you and just create whatever it is that it needs to create. Yeah, you get a little deep breathing, intentional consciousness, and a little Kurt Signetti. You build your habits, then habits build you. What was that exact quote? Love that quote. First, you form your habits, then your habits form you. First, you form your habits, then your habits form you. I feel good. All right, guys. Any last thoughts, comments? Check the chat. Excellent.
Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see you guys tonight. That'll be great. We're really gonna launch into some higher discussions tonight. So I think that for me personally, it's been trying to like as this process continues, trying to find the right angle or the right voice or the right, kind of allowing myself to not be always the same way I am and trying to find how the right message at the right level with the right voice, with the right delivery. And so I'm really still working on all that. And tonight, we're going to start to think more as a collective and start to plan for the future. So I'm looking forward to tonight. And just keep up this weekly cycle, right? Keep up this weekly cycle. Excellent. All right, guys. Love you all, and I will see some of you tonight. And hey, enjoy the rest of your day. Diaphragmatic breathing, inner sight, even with your eyes open. Work on that. All right, guys.